Yiasas everyone! In today's video I'm going to be showing you all the books I have that are centred around the Greek theme. So that could be that they are written by a Greek or Cypriot author, or the content is set in Greece or Cyprus or on a Greek island or something, or that the story is based on ancient Greek history or something like that. So I've got a great selection for you here. I've got fiction, non-fiction, a few recipe books and a travel book. So I really hope you enjoy this video, guys. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let's see what's on my Greek bookshelf. So I thought I would start with fiction, and the first book on my list is one that I don't actually have to hand because I left it back in Cyprus, so I shall have to insert a little picture of it somewhere here, and it is Land of the Golden Apple by Greek Cypriot author Yiasas. I've read all of Eve's books. She's an amazing author, but this book in particular just really stayed with me, and you know, I was lying in bed thinking about all the things that happened in it. So this book is set in Cyprus. It's a coming-of-age drama about a little boy called Socrates, and one summer he spends with his friends and his family and all the things he gets up to, but the sort of subplot to that is what's happening in the close-knit community. So for example, we have one woman who has an abusive husband. There's also a very dangerous predator in the village, so there's lots of things going on in the background of this seemingly very friendly, very close-knit village. It was beautifully written, lots of imagery, a great insight into a time that was simple, idyllic, and just so full of charm. This is a book that will stay with you long after you put it down. The second book on my fiction list is another huge favourite of mine. It's also a very popular book. It is The Island by Victoria Hislop. The island being the island of Spinalonga in Crete. This book changed my life, basically, because it made me want to visit Spinalonga, which I ended up doing. And the actual story of Spinalonga itself is so interesting, such an emotional and tragic story as well. And Victoria Hislop captures the whole essence of what life was supposedly like on the island. So the story follows a young woman named Alexis who travels to Spinalonga to find out more about her great-grandmother who was sent there when it was a leper colony. And so a tragic story unfolds of love, leprosy, and so much more. This book is absolutely beautiful. It's fiction, but obviously mixed with facts, and Victoria Hislop's obviously done so much research into people that lived on the island and their families and so on. And even though obviously the story is made up of fictional characters, you just know that some of them were absolutely on that island. The good, the bad, the ugly. This book has them all. It's so sad to think about how the lepers were treated, what they went through, how they survived on an island that initially had absolutely nothing. They basically had to build their own community with very little help from the outside world. The events surrounding Spinalonga and what happened to the lepers that were put on the island are absolutely horrific. But this story isn't a sad one in any way. It's actually really quite uplifting, and at the end I felt very positive. So don't think it's a really sad story, although it is obviously about a tragic time. It's filled with light and love. So definitely another one to add to your Greek bookshelf. So after reading The Island, I became so obsessed with Spinalonga that I found another book about the life of the leper colony there, and this is by another Greek author, Nikki Azoros. This is The Eagle of Spinalonga. Very similar in the content, in that it's about the life of the lepers on the island and the difficulties they faced and everything, but it's slightly less romanticised than The Island. I found it a little bit more gritty. Some of the scenes are a bit more graphic. It's basically about a lawyer called Nikos who contracts leprosy and is put on the island, and he finds it in a terrible state. There's no laws, there's no rules, there's rape, there's people almost being killed because they're all in such a confused, terrible state. And he then has help from a local priest, and together they start to form an element of democracy within the community. With regard to the title of the eagle, basically Nikos captures an eagle on the island and the eagle helps to catch food. So as well as training this eagle to help him survive on the island, he's also training the people of the island to come together and work together to create a community where they can all thrive. So if you love Spinalonga as much as I do, this will definitely be another one to follow up with. Next up we have a book which covers my other obsession, which is Greek myths and legends, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This has got to be one of my favourite books of all time, like all time. Madeline Miller has also written the story Circe, which is another great book, but this one is the one to read. This is a retelling of the Iliad, but from the very early events leading up to it, and it's told from the point of Patroclus, who starts out in the book as a young boy. He accidentally kills another boy, so he's exiled, where he eventually meets Achilles, and so begins a very deep, intense, romantic relationship. Spoiler there, I should have said spoiler before romantic. Spoiler alert, romantic relationship. And then it goes on to tell the story of Troy and what happens and the tragedy that occurs. This is so beautifully written. It's just an amazing book that really draws you in. Despite already knowing the characters, especially if you've studied ancient Greek mythology and whatever, this book gives you a much more in-depth characterization of them and their thoughts and everything. It's just so beautifully told, beautifully written. I've read this twice and I'm going to read it again because I just can't get enough of it. So The Guardian actually described this book as an exciting, sexy, violent Superman version of the Iliad. Yep, I'd say that's pretty much right. Next we have 3 beautiful books by my lovely friend Nadia Marks. Nadia is a Greek Cypriot author who grew up in London. This is the first of the 3 books. This is Among the Lemon Trees. Then there is Secrets Under the Sun, which I can't find my copy of anywhere. And her third most recent one, which now has pen on it because my son was attempting to read it and decided that he wanted to write it as well, is Between the Orange Groves. So I'm going to focus on book 1. These are all standalone novels, but I like to read my books in order even if they aren't connected, because it just gives you that feel of the author and the way they write and everything. So Among the Lemon Trees is the first one. So this story is about a woman named Anna who, after 25 years of marriage, finds out that her husband is having an affair. So she heads to Greece to spend time with her father, and whilst there she finds some love letters that are addressed to her aunt. That opens up Pandora's box, as it were, and she uncovers all sorts of secrets and betrayals and all kinds of complex love triangles. So the first part is written from the viewpoint of Anna. So through these love letters we go back in time to pre-Second World War, and we learn of all the buried secrets that have stayed uncovered for so long. The story is told in 4 parts and crosses different generations. This is a lovely, easy read, ideal for holiday. If you're going away, Nadia Marks is the woman that you want in your bag. This next book weaves historical fact with fictional characters and is an amazing piece of literature by an amazing woman. House on Paradise Street by Sofka Zinoviev, who is just the most interesting woman ever. You should read her website, read her biography. So this book is essentially narrated by 2 women. First we have expatriate English Maud, whose Greek husband Nikitas has died in a car crash, and she goes to his apartment and sort of uncovers letters and things, which leads to the story of his mother, Antigone, who has been living in exile in Russia, and it transpires that she and her younger brother fought in the civil war in Greece, and she was raped, and so she had the son Nikitas, who she then had to give up. Some of it is quite, not graphic, it's not written in, you know, a horribly graphic way, but it is very hard hitting, and obviously these are things that absolutely happened to people during that time, and that so some of it is really really hard to take in and very emotional. And we hear the stories of these two women trying to reconcile their family and understand why things happened and come to terms with everything and forgive each other. Paradise Street itself is a street in Athens where Maud and her ex-husband lived. Paradise Street is a street in Athens where Maud and her ex-husband lived, and that is from where she tells her side of the story, hence the title of The House on Paradise Street. Absolutely amazing read, really passionate, so absorbing and so evocative, and just an excellent, excellent read that will stay on my bookshelf for many years to come. Moving on to non-fiction, and actually going back to Eve Makis, who alongside Anthony Cropper has written this book, The Accidental Memoir. So this isn't really a book to read, it's a guide to help you to write your own memoir, hence the title, The Accidental Memoir. So it's a bit like a journal. There are prompts to write your ideas down and so on. So if you're kind of a budding novelist, or you just want to journal your creative thoughts, this is an absolutely beautiful way to do that. Eve kindly sent me this book, and I haven't dared write in it because I just think it's too nice to write in, and that my scribbly handwriting will ruin it completely. But if you're a type of person who loves to keep journals, and you do love to write things down and keep them in such beautiful way, then this is the one for you, The Accidental Memoir. If you're looking for more of a travel memoir, then why not try out the author Sharon Blomfield and her book, The Sifnos Chronicles. This is a beautifully written travel memoir by Sharon about her experiences travelling the island of Sifnos alongside her husband, and all the comical experiences they have and all the sights and sounds that they encounter on their journey. This is really nicely paced, it's funny, it's quirky, there's lots of scenes with crazy Greek drivers and Greeks waving their arms about and so on. So if that's something that you enjoy, then this should be right up your street. Sharon has also just released her second book, Sifnos Chronicles 2, More Greek Island Tales, which is written in a similar vein with just so much more fun and funny encounters and so on. So that's another great read to add to your list. Next up, we have a very unusual memoir written by American writer and artist Pamela Jane Rogers. This book follows Pamela's story in 1982 when she went to Greece to paint. It was during the time that her first marriage was breaking down, and she sort of finds herself along the way. But the difference with this story compared to other non-fiction books is that Pamela has provided the most beautiful illustrations inside this book. As a painter, she is absolutely amazing. Let me see if I can find you some of the really lovely works of art in here. So that's just a couple of them there. Then we have another beautiful piece there. This was such an enjoyable read, and having the artwork to look at as well just made me feel even more connected to Pamela. So it wasn't just through her words, but also through her paintings as well. Just a really beautiful book to have. A lot of the others you could obviously download on Amazon Kindle, but this one you definitely need to get in paperback. Moving on to one of my favourite Greek travel books. This is the Greek Islands Anthology by Richard Clarke. Richard is the author of 12 books on Greece, and he has just released his very first novel. So this is just so much more than a travel book. It details Richard's experiences on the island of Crete, on Corfu, Santorini, Mykonos. All the islands are in here, and it's written beautifully. He's funny, he's articulate. You certainly don't need to go and get yourself just your bog standard travel guide when you could read one of Richard Clarke's books. There's also some really useful Greek words and phrases at the back that you would probably need if you were going traveling in Greece. So it's get by in Greek, hello, goodbye, and so on. So this is the perfect travel companion to your new adventures. Finally, I have a couple of Greek recipe books that I want to share with you because, as we all know, Greeks love to eat, they love to cook, they love to eat, they love to eat. So I wanted to include these on my Greek bookshelf list as well. First of all, we have Back to My Roots, Recipes from the Villages of Greece by my beautiful, gorgeous, amazing, wonderful friend, Christina Kalapothakos. Christina is a trained Greek chef. She owns the food blog www.kouzounaskitchen.com, which I shall leave all the links down below as well. This book contains recipes from the village of Mani in Greece, where her grandparents are from, and it's just a beautiful book with great photography as well of all the food. We've got main courses, desserts, beverages, you name it. It's in here. It's the perfect gift for anybody that loves to cook Greek recipes and wants a more village feel to their cooking. And alongside the recipes, Christina has included stories about her grandparents' life in the village and her memories, and really interesting stories like that. So she's currently working on her second cookbook as well, so keep an eye out for that. Really beautiful to have in your kitchen as your Greek cooking companion. And then last but not least, if you're a fan of the Thermomix and you love your Greek meze, then we have the perfect book for you here. This is Meze, Small Plates to Share, Recipes Converted for Your Thermal Cooking Machine by Christella Zanoros and Sia Aristidou. This is another beautifully photographed recipe book full of really easy, useful Greek recipes that have been converted into a recipe that will work with your Thermomix. There's also some really useful dietary reference lists in here as well, which lets you know if any of the recipes are gluten-free, if they're suitable for vegans, how much refined sugar they have in them, and so on. And if you haven't got yourself a Thermomix, then I suggest you go and get one and get this book at the same time. So there you go, guys, that was what is on my Greek bookshelf. I do have many other books that are similar to the ones I've shown you, so there may well be a part 2 of this video coming soon. I shall leave all the links to all of the books down below and to the authors and so on if they have other websites. I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button, bell button and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.